Lawrence.
Here.
Bob Lilac.
Present.
Mindy Reynolds, absent. Walt LaChessie, present. Steve Beers.
Here.
Jim Beers, I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's what I go for.
I apologize. All right, we have a quorum. I'll call the meeting to order. Item number 2, will you kindly stand and join me while we pledge allegiance to our flags? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag,
Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
thank you very much. Item 3, anybody sign up for public comment? All right, moving on. Item number 4, anybody request adjustments at all? Okay. Consent agenda. Does any member want any item removed from the consent agenda?
Just a correction maybe on the minutes.
Okay.
The minutes show that I made the motion to approve the consent agenda last meeting, and I also seconded it. I think Mindy seconded it. Do we want to make that change or not?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to regular agenda, receive the regular monthly report from SJRA. Morning.
Morning. Nothing to add to the report. It's been a pretty easy month so far. A lot of rain, of course, last month moved into this month. No violations. Everything's working to the most part that should be. Answer any questions if you have any.
Any update on the negotiations between SJRA and Conroe?
They're continuing.
Hard one.
Wish I could tell you more, but it's about what you're gonna get.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Item 11, review the draft of the SJRA division budget. Did everybody watch the video?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you need to go through the whole thing again. Just any questions?
I got a bunch of little trivial questions. In the budget, there's $96,000 for lobbying. Two questions. Do we get a return on that investment, and why can't we do it in-house?
So those are good questions. One of the things the lobbyist is working on is getting us, I don't know what exactly the right word, but some of the appropriations and getting us, I don't know the political word, but more favorable interest rates on some of our projects to get it into some of the state, not revolving fund, but the state use plan, getting projects into that. So some of those things, by default, we do get a return on that if we're able to get more favorable funding and things like that.
I can answer more of that. They've gotten us about 5.4 million, and no, we can't do it in-house.
Okay.
I'm curious about commercial laboratory fees.
Yes.
We got a pretty steep rise in that coming up. I'm wondering what that's about.
So you have 3 permit renewals. All 3 wastewater plant and permit renewals are in about 18 months. So we need to do sampling next year.
Cool.
Property insurance too, a 20% increase. I guess that reflects not only commercial, but residential property as well.
Well, these are all just all the assets that the River Authority owns above ground. So all the properties and everything.
And employee relations, there's a 280% increase. What is that?
We really like our people.
Yeah.
No, it's a coding change that Haley can go through.
It's an allocation methodology change that we had this year. So in previous years, we had HR budgeted in the G&A budget, and then we, as the Woodlands, paid G&A back through our G&A allocations. But technically, anything that directly impacts employees of a certain division So employee relations, that's like our holiday party, our turkey vouchers, our rewards points throughout the year. All of those things directly impact the Woodlands employee, and it's not something that HR is doing indirectly. So instead of having it be in the G&A budget, it's now in the division
So
budget.
it's more of a reallocation. Okay. And physical security, there's a huge increase in that.
Has to do with the servers that IT is wanting to put. I think it's 2 different servers to help with our cameras in the Woodlands to be able to get faster playback time on the videos that we capture around, and then also to help, I think, with the storage of that film, so that if we don't realize that there's a problem within 48 hours or 7 days, whatever it's storing now, that we still can go back and see why there was damage somewhere.
And on a clarifier too, and that's just a necessary repair. We can't postpone that until we,
Right, the actual gear drive's been out. It's leaking quite a bit. We've had to switch over to food grade oil, vegetable oil essentially, right? Because it's leaking everywhere. So we try to put it off as long as we can based on the wastewater plant strategic plan, but it's got to be replaced at this point.
it's construction in progress. And that's noted in the packet, that's $6 million.
That's another weird one that we stuck in the budget, but I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but it had to go in. In our project plan, we're showing issuing a bond for this next year. Not necessarily that we will do that, because it depends on where y'all go with the strategic plan and everything going on with Corolla. But it's in the project plan, it has to go in the budget. So you'll see the 6.4 million in construction in progress. And then also, if you look down under other sources and uses, you'll see that 6.4 again, because we don't have a fund in our system set up for future bonds. So we've dropped it into operating, but it's being offset by the bond funds would pay for that construction progress should we move forward with it.
And then finally, the transportation equipment.
Is that for capital? Yeah, so we have a boom truck that's 2004.
2000, the current crane truck is a 2007 model that we've been having numerous issues with. It's been in the shop most of this year. We finally got it back, but it's also gotten, well motor sizes have gotten to the point where it's not able to lift the big well motors. And so we're having to contract a crane company to come out and do that each time we have to pull one of those.
Okay. Okay, well, that's enough for me.
All good questions. Is there anything else?
Anybody have any other questions? Okay, we don't have to vote on this, right? We'll do it next month.
No, that's what I was gonna say. The reminder from me is that we'll ask you for a vote next month to direct your trustees for the August meeting. And then just as a reminder, the highlights of our rate changes or there's no change to the rate. And then there's a drop in the GRT rate, 4 cents. Yep. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Appreciate it. All right, item 12, discuss the water line conditioning assessment. That was the all mud meeting.
Yeah, we'll put this on the agendas just to give the board, the MUDs, the opportunity to share thoughts if you'd like. There's no agenda specific to what y'all want to talk about, just give me an opportunity. No action, just if you had wanted to chat.
Didn't Metro Mud make a resolution last night?
They are interested in moving forward with Town Center since it's pretty much already designed. I think that was the motion that they made. Or
They did ask the item to put on the next trustees agenda for discussion, since it would have to, since it would require trustee action.
Okay. But that's something that's concerned this month.
SJRA has requested of the MUDs officially that they, consider the information they've received and give them guidance by November 1 as to the direction they want to go with the projects that were recommended to be done in the next 10 years.
I think I made a comment in the trustees meeting reflecting that I think they ought to move forward on it. I think it's been shown by a third party engineer. It needs to be done.
I'd like to make the comment, there's an article published in the year 2019. The Journal of the American Water Association about AC pipes. And so if you haven't seen it, I urge you to read it. And HDR yesterday or the other day at the meeting came up with the same conclusion that this Mesa Water District in California came up with is that age is not a measure or a means to justify replacing AC pipes. So it's nice that they rediscovered the wheel when they came up with that.
On this particular pipe, is there any environmental issues working with it, with the asbestos?
To the person, there definitely is. You can't make, basically, if you're cutting it, you have to make sure it stays wet so it doesn't get airborne because it's asbestos. So all the concerns you have with asbestos, exactly the same with this. Right now, but
Do you have to bring a third party in to do any observation or to do any work on the pipe, or are your guys trained and qualified to do that?
the contractor will have to show that they're trained and qualified to work on it. Yeah,
So you wouldn't be doing it, you'd have a contractor do it,
correct.
that's certified in that.
Yeah, once the hole gets open, there's definite specific protocols that the contractor will need to follow if they're pulling out any asbestos pipe gets into the air. That really triggers the change in how they have to handle the pipe. Some of the improvement is not open cut though either, so.
There's some special way they have to dispose the pipe when they grind it up, crush it. What?
I don't know that piece of it, that detail.
We throw it in the dumpster. Okay. So we checked with Department of State Health Services. We've checked with EPA. There's another one I can't think of right now. We've checked with 3 or 4 different state and federal agencies to say, what's your guidance on this? Because like Town Center, we wanted to pipe burst it, right? So you take one pipe, put it inside the other, blow it apart. Biggest question is, can you do that? And can it stay in the ground? Whose responsibility is if somebody digs it up in 10 years, they're exposed to it. Right now, there's no guidance across the board on how to do it. Lead, paint, stuff like that, a lot of guidance. Asbestos, not too much just yet. We asked HDR the same question when we were doing these pipe samplings because we're pulling sticks out and said, what do we do with this? How do we do this? And they told us the same thing. Just trash it.
So they're really just gonna go in the dump? Really? Okay.
Yeah, really, really throw the dumpster.
Is this gonna be on the trustees meeting next month to vote on?
Likely will.
Town center one.
What about the rest of the items that were identified?
Well, the Metro Board action was to request that their trustee add the town center item to the trustee agenda for next month to consider for action, because it would require reallocation of some funds from land acquisition to design. If the design has, according to the River Authority, more design work has to be done to determine the exact route. And so the discussion was about moving funds that are currently allocated to acquisition of easements to the design, because the design has to be done before easements can be acquired. And in order to have that reallocation, it would require action of the trustees. So
The other items that were identified by the engineer, do you need release or do you need study on that, or what do you need to begin work on those?
Direction and funding. So that goes back to our November 1st deadline of we're looking for direction from all the MUDs on how y'all want to do these projects. So we can put them in our next project plan so we can discuss and find funding to start with design, construction, everything else.
The 7 projects HDR presented seemed prudent.
We would agree with you.
Yeah, so that what they're asking for is guidance by November 1 so that they can plan it out in the updated 10-year project plan. So essentially, where do those 7 projects go? Or are you gonna ask them to, divvy them up amongst the next decade, kind of that? And do we want to obviously go forward with them? That's the direction that they need and have requested.
And that needs to come from the trustees.
That's, I mean, the funding, specifically the supplementals, will need to be approved by the MUDs. But I think at some point the trustees need to acknowledge that they want to go forward with the projects, and then the MUDs will need to approve the supplemental agreements for the funding.
If it's gonna be funded by bonds. So
True, good
if
point.
if it's funded by wholesale rates, the way that some of these other items have been cash funded over time, that's action by the trustees. But if it requires a bond issue, then that would require a supplemental agreement for each of the MUDs.
I guess I'm asking for guidance on how do we proceed to move forward with this?
Yeah, I think in my perspective, the bigger picture, and we talked about this, when we presented last March of last year, was the options for, funding what was in the project plan at that point, which was all of the, again, I'm just reiterating what was before, but all of the AC lines at that point and the wastewater treatment plant. If you took those 2 numbers, it was close to 600 million. So when we presented what the result could be to the customer, it was, and we kind of listed out if it was a fee, if it was a water bill, if it was rollback, et cetera, and those options. Well, things have changed. So what does that look like? If we're only talking about 7 of the 11 or 12, whatever it was, or the ACs, and some will be pushed out, but we're only focused on 7. So that's a different number. I think the number we saw from HDR is 120. That was questioned whether or not in the next decade that will stay the right number. Likely not. It'll probably go up. If you're going to do projects sooner, it's probably closer to being accurate. If you're going to do projects later, probably goes up. So that's one number. And then what's still in the air is what to do with the wastewater treatment plant. Reason I bring that up is if you decide, well, this project's only 16 million or whatever it is for just town center, let's say, you might say, well, that only has a $20 or whatever the number is effect on the water bill if you want to go down the water bill rate. But then in year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you continue to add those, and then whatever we do with the treatment plant gets tied into that. Now, what is the overall effect to the resident? And you may choose a different path with all of the numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, just because you choose to go down the path of water bill, let's just say for this one project, doesn't mean you're tied into that for all the other projects. So theoretically, you could go forward with this project, town center, going down the path of water bill, and we can estimate that it's probably 20, 25 bucks, whatever it is. And maybe less. We just need to look at it. Go down that path with that while you're figuring out what to do with all the rest of them as far as the funding piece of it. So I think you can make the decision if you so choose to go forward in the next project cycle, the 10-year deal for the 7 projects. And then once more information comes out on the treatment plant, you can kind of tie that in. And then at that point, we would need to figure out, okay, how we're going to fund all of them over the next 10 years. Does that make sense? Because you might say, look, 16 million for the one project, that's only, whatever it is, 15, 20 bucks. But by the time we add all the rest of the projects plus the treatment plant, again, whatever we do there, that could be something that you don't want to put on the water bill. You might want to go a different route of those 4 options that we gave. So I think once the treatment plant's done, we need to redo that evaluation so that we can share with you, what that result would be to the customer over the whole decade. I think that would be important to you. I know it has been to the directors in the past. Just you can't do that right now with that one. We could certainly do that with the 120 million. We can do that evaluation.
You said 2025, is that per month to this customer
Yes.
increase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's total guess. What we had estimated before, about every 100 million was roughly about $30 on the bill. So it may actually be less for that particular.
That'd be the full 120 then, would be 20 to 25 per month.
Yeah, it'd be about, well, 120 would be 35 a month, right? So it'd be less than 35. But I would like to, go back through that just to give you a better number.
So in terms of winter billing, that would be almost 80% increase in the average monthly bill in the winter months. Like my water bill is about $30 right now in December through February.
Annual average throughout the Woodlands 104. So obviously it has ups and downs throughout the year. Well, likely would not be, if it's, let's just say $20, it wouldn't be 20 in the winter. That's what I'm trying to say. The annual average would be.
So you would proportion it. In other words, in the winter, the amount would be smaller, but in the summer, when you use more water, it would be higher.
Yeah, the rate wouldn't adjust. It would be dictated by usage.
Okay.
If we went down the water bill rate.
How many total meters do we have in the Woodlands that you guys service?
Just over 34,000. 32 residential and 2 commercial, give or take a few hundred each on each one.
Those rates only affect that particular month that's involved in that. Or is that everything?
Be everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, and I would prefer to stay consistent. Although there might be a mud out there that has some cash, but I really don't. I would prefer to stay away from having, 6 or 7 different rates across the muds. We've tried real hard to keep the rates consistent throughout the years. Right now on the retail side, we have 2 districts that are different than the other 8. I don't want to have 10 different rates, but something the boards are going to need to decide how they want to fund it. Most will have to go down either a rollback or a water bill, pass through, because they don't have the cash. Several of them don't.
So we don't have to take any action on this then today. This is just discussion.
Discussion, just wanted to give you an opportunity. If you want to put an agenda item, you probably need an agenda item, to be able to give SRA direction by November 1. So we can do that at a future meeting if you'd like.
And just for this particular mud or to the board of trustees to make it an agenda item?
Board of Trustees right now just is focused on town center, but likely, you're going to need to make a decision on all of the 7 projects.
We need to set up like a task force of a group of people to study it or
Study what?
funding and what projects we want to work on or the timeline or the priority, the urgency of it. I mean, no.
I mean, the reality, I've heard there was comments at the meeting about, maybe we analyze this further to identify what the difference is between doing it at 7 years or 15. The reality is any analysis you do from this point, it's not going to tell you the exact time is 7 years, 5 months. There's nothing that's going to give you any insight to that. There's not a magic analysis that's going to tell you the exact year and month to do it. So you've been presented by the experts that the 7 projects need to be done in the next 10 years. So how that gets done, I would logistically, logically, you would start with tier 1 and move your way through the projects. That's what I would assume.
Financing of these, there's all kinds of options, right? I mean, you can do a rollback in combination with like increased rates. So, I mean, who's going to do that analysis? Is that in-house?
Yeah, we would do that in conjunction with SRA. We would need to know what the wholesale rates would look like. And then we can, of the 4 options that we presented in March last year, it was MUD's doing their own bonds, which I would argue that no MUD likely should do that. That's not cost effective. Put a flat fee on the water bill, and that has some pretty big cons, particularly for your base rate payers. That's going to hit them the hardest. So I probably wouldn't recommend that either. So then that leaves the other two options, which is rollback tax election, which just converts the debt that they're going to sell to your tax side of things, which, as we presented before, that almost cuts the result, at least on the water bill, to the customers in half. And then the other option would just be a straight pass through of the wholesale rate. And that's when I say water bill, that's what I'm really referring to, is a pass through of the wholesale rate that comes from, and they're going to identify the amount of wholesale rate based on average water usage that's enough to generate the revenue to pay back the debt that they have to.
So that's not an either or, right? I mean, you could have a rollback election for less and add to the water bill.
You could definitely have a combination.
Yeah.
Look at me.
See if you have more questions.
All good questions. I mean, that's what we need to get to. There's no doubt. We could do that on the water side right now. We just can't do it on the treatment plant side until we get, that one done, to know really which direction the board's want to go.
Anybody have a motion or anything they want to do?
We don't have a motion on this one. You could ask at the end of the agenda to put an item on your next meeting to hit something specific if you'd like.
Or we could have a motion to put on the Board of Trustees agenda that we give SJR direction.
Okay.
That's what my motion is. Anybody want to second that?
What's the motion to put it on the trustees agenda?
Yeah, yes, SJRA direction on proceeding with the information that we received. So we give them some guidance so we can move forward with this.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, moving on, item 13, update on Spring Creek. Anything at all? You have any update? All right, item 14, receive the attorney's report.
Well, not much to report today. The session is over. We're in the process of preparing our comprehensive legislative summary. We'll have that for y'all in advance of next month's board meeting. If any of you attended the Google conference in San Antonio last weekend, you might have seen my partner, Shane Miller, giving us some legislative updates. So more to come on that, but thankfully, most of the bills I mentioned at the trustee meeting, which we're following and concerned about, did not ultimately pass. Some bills we were following good did pass, like the bill that restricts housing finance corporations from being able to come in and take apartment complexes to tax exempt. That did pass, so that's good. There is a bill that we will be implementing. Talk about more in the coming months, but the one that we're focused on right now is a bill that now requires for agendas to be posted 72 business hours in advance of a meeting. The current law is 72 calendar hours. So that will push back when we need to have MUD agendas posted and will conflict with the trustee meeting. Right now, we typically had time between the end of the trustee meeting, if something came up at the trustee meeting that would have to be brought up at the MUD meetings the following week. We'd have time to be able to have those added with the posted agendas Thursday afternoon and Friday. With the business hour requirement, we will not be able to do that. With the trustee meeting being on Wednesday and Metro being Monday, these meetings being Tuesday, we'll have to post on Wednesday before the trustee meeting. So we're discussing internally what the approach will be to handle that. There's really only two solutions or two outcomes. One, we have to just roll a month before we can consider something at the MUD meetings that was brought up at a trustee meeting that wasn't already anticipated. Or we would have to move the regularly scheduled trustee meeting from Wednesday up to Monday. So neither one of those options are great. And so we're discussing what the least painful option would be. So that's all I have to report today. Happy to answer this.
Any questions?
Well, the other thing, you could just push the MUD meetings back. So leave the trustees the same.
Yeah, I mean, then you're coordinating more schedules. So, you got 10 trustees versus 50 directors. So, it's more.
So what's the status of that proposal? Has it been,
Well, it passed.
what did
Yeah, it
pass?
did pass. So we are going to have to deal with it. It's just a matter of what the solution is. Do we just?
And the governor has signed it?
I don't know if the governor signed. The veto period is this Sunday, I believe, is the deadline. And any bills that he doesn't sign or veto.
It's time to get our lobbyist in there.
Well, I don't think there's anything going to change on that. I think that is what it is at this point. So we will need to address it. That's all I have.
Yeah, check me on one thing. Every bill that's passed or the bills that are passed during this session, do they have to go on the ballot?
No.
What determines what goes on the ballot, and what doesn't?
Generally, if it impacts the Texas Constitution. So the bill that will increase the water fund that will move some state sales tax and some other state fees to create that $1 billion water fund, that will go on the ballot. What else?
As part of the Constitution?
Well, as far as how you allocate those funds. So that will go to the voters. But most bills do not. Most bills do not have to go separately to voters for approval.
Okay, well, like when they increase the homestead exemptions or the taxes, that has to go on the Constitution.
That
That has to go on the ballot, I mean.
that will have to go on for you're talking about the school district tax rate.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm. I didn't realize that. I was wondering what determines goes on the ballot and what doesn't.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there could be other, other considerations that I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but those are two that I know will be on the ballot.
So even if legislators decide that this is, they approve something and the governor signs it, it still goes on the ballot and it can be rejected.
In limited circumstances, yes. Yeah, this bill that we're talking about in terms of the timing for agendas, that does not go on the ballot.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Item 15, general manager's report.
All right, I have a few things to cover. We did attend AWD this last week, him and I, and then I think we had, at least since I've been here, we've had our highest attendance for board members. So good trend. I hope it was beneficial for everyone. I know Jim was there. We ran into each other. So any takeaways that you'd like to worth sharing?
The only thing that I came away with was the seminars. I liked the seminars. I thought they were really good, but they offer 3 at a time. So you get to choose between one of the 3. I don't know why they don't just have 6 seminars and you still choose whichever ones you want to go to. But there were a lot of them that I missed because they weren't, I picked a different option. And I know some of the guys went in and if they didn't like the first 15 minutes of the seminar, they left and went to a different one. But, I thought that would be more useful to my time anyway, rather than, just walking around among vendors and things,
Yeah. One of the things that AWD started doing last couple of years, probably since COVID, was providing videos of all of the seminars after the conference. So I believe that's coming within the next week or so.
Oh,
They've been doing that for probably the last 3 or 4 years, something like that. So if we missed one, that's another opportunity to hit it.
Is there a reason they don't spread them out? just to give all.
I think they're just trying, well, I think they're just trying to get as many in as they can.
Oh, to increase the audience size?
Well, no, to give folks options, number one, and if they spread it out, the conference would be 4 days long. Wouldn't be able to do it.
Have 6 in a day. I mean, I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
not many.
So,
Would those videos be available to those who did not attend?
probably not, but we can certainly get our hands on them and share them, I would think.
How would they be available? Is it on the AWBD site?
Website, yeah, they'll send out a notice here in the next couple of weeks that they're available, and then we can see if we can extract those.
Why would they not make them available for people that didn't go?
It's just members that attended. I mean, it is something you have to pay for. So it's not necessarily free.
How was the steakhouse?
Yeah, good.
Was it?
Yeah. So, when those come out, we'll see if we can grab them and, get them shared to folks so you can kind of pick and choose what you want to watch. Turn your page to 52 is the general manager's report. Wanted to, as you can see, we continue to improve the report, expanding the information that we're putting in it. Couple highlights. We are the sanitary sewer rehab that you do have a part in. Page 55 is underway. Also, we are proceeding with a ditch improvement portion of that one as well. 33 split report. That's could be done here in the next few weeks, or actually rather in the next month. We did in Mud One replace a couple 3 and 4 inch meters this last round, and wanted to let you know that we did. Staff's been working really hard. We're real busy right now. This is a busy time of the year for us. Move outs and move ins during the summer increased significantly, as well as going through our billing software changes. So we did have some issues that affected a small portion of the community, but did affect them. So you may have seen a notice that went out last week from me to the customers asking for patience and apologizing for any inconvenience. So I just wanted to make sure, and it didn't affect the entire Woodlands, but I sent it out to the entire Woodlands. So we're correcting those issues. Most of them are all related to online payers, getting the banks to sync up and talk to each other with the new water account numbers. So we're working through that. For you today is a copy of your CCR report. That is your the results of your water testing that you share with the public. This will be posted on the website by the end of the month. It's to be posted prior to July 1. So this will go out. No excursions or concerns that we have, but this is an annual thing that we do. And I believe legislation last time required that we do it now twice a year, as well as I recall. But this will be the first posting to educate or at least provide the results to the public.
Is it going to be mailed out too?
I don't
Like in the past.
Well,
but,
yeah, I feel like we do typically mail those out.
Yes, they are.
But legally, you can now put a URL link on the URL link on the water bills, but I think in the Woodlands, we still send those out. We may also put them on the bills as well, on the link.
Right, we do both, yeah. So we are printing them now, and they will be distributed by the printer, and then we will hand deliver the ones to the apartments, all the apartment complexes, and they'll acknowledge receipt of that, and then it's up to them to distribute to the various units, so. And then it will be posted on the website as well, and then I think John's gonna do some additional communication as well, so.
Yeah, I was just wondering the expense of mailing it out. I mean, I wonder how many people even read it when they get it. Versus putting it on.
Well, it's a requirement, no one, but we do get responses. People do read it. I don't know what percentage of people read it, but we definitely get some feedback questions. And the last thing I had, I think, was to kick it to John for communications.
Page 66 is your report. Good morning.
Yeah.
And one more thing to tack on to that conversation about CCRs is, another reason I think that we want to put these out in front of folks as many ways as possible is not only so they see what's in their water, but it's important that they understand that we want them to see what's in their water. We want to celebrate the excellent water quality we have, and we want to send a message that we want them to be as educated about their water as possible. We'll make every strive towards that. Okay, so we're in water conservation now, Q3 of our strategic plan. So you'll see a heightened focus on that in our materials. Infrastructure renewal communications, we're continuing to enhance that website. Made a number of improvements since we met last. Trying to keep that, maximize transparency and make it as easy as possible for folks to get up-to-date information. So we have a digital toolkit now there. That's really designed for individuals and groups to take the message and disseminate it out. It makes it really easy to put together social media posts and distribute that through their own channels. We have that. We have a page now in the community working group, keeping that updated, and we're working towards a GIS-based interactive map. So folks can look at projects in their local area, see if there's any traffic impacts, get the latest information on specific projects. We continue to promote that website. We're seeing a nice response. We're seeing visitation track upwards month after month. You got some stats there.
What's CWG? What is?
Oh, sorry, that's the community working group. So that is that group of folks representing various segments of the community, including mud directors, representatives from Howard Hughes, the township, small and large businesses, village associations. So their job is to bring ideas or sentiment, opinions, questions forward from the public to inform our efforts. So we better understand, what the public is thinking and wondering about as far as renewal goes, and then to take information back out to the public. There's an expectation that each member will take the information they gain. And
So who's on that group?
so you've got a representative from each MUD.
Mindy's on it.
Oh, yeah. And then VA reps, one from each VA, Township Howard Hughes, local elected officials.
There was a good article on community impact digital this morning about that group.
Yeah, we just got that published. We're going to start promoting that in earnest here very soon. But yeah, that is live.
Brought up.
Good. Yeah, so that's the CWG is scheduled, their 5th meeting scheduled for July 1. They're going to hear from Carollo again at that meeting. I do like to bring stats forward periodically on website and social media, how we're performing. I did that this month for you on the website. So you've got page views. That's a metric I like to use. How many different pages are being viewed each month? And then unique visitors as well next to that. So as a reminder, we kicked off the strategic plan in 2023. That first year, we saw a 50% increase in website visitation. And then the subsequent year, we saw another 50% increase. So I think that's one gauge. It's not the end all be all, but it's one gauge of how we're doing in our communications, because we do drive so much back to the website. So that is a helpful metric to see how much folks are seeing all of our material, or at least some of it, I guess.
Judgment by unique visitors. What's a unique visitor?
So if you visit the website 8 times in a month, you're one unique visitor.
Oh, okay.
But you might see 20 pages in those 8 visits. So that's captured as the page views. And then we've leveled off this year, but we're still at a nice level. We always want to see that number grow, but I'm pretty pleased with visitation right now this year. Next few pages, just examples, current market materials, and then you have our outreach calendar. They're at the bottom of 69. I will be at the Grogan's Mill Farmers Market this Saturday. With that, any questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
John. Anything else, sir? No. Okay. All right, moving on, item 16, trustees report. I think if you watch the video, it's pretty self-explanatory what went on, going through the budget and the outreach to the community was also presented. All right, item 17, we don't need to, items 18, okay. Item 19, matters for future agenda.
You were looking for guidance for the trustees?
Yeah.
What specific guidance are you looking for? With the pipes is, okay. Well, let's make the motion. I mean, the trustees need to have guidance, right? So where do you want to get it from? I'm not sure what you're exactly looking for.
So I'm looking for, as I mentioned before, we had a presentation made that showed us where there's concerns out there and I think we need to give guidance on what's the next step. I mean, what's the path forward now? I mean, we're gonna just keep talking about it and kicking the can down the road, or we
And
gotta,
that's coming from these two? Is that the guidance from them? Or guidance from us?
well, I think it's probably guidance from all. I mean, I think that presentation showed that there is piping affected by quite a few of the muds. I think we had some that were in there, and I think we need to give them guidance on what we want to do, what we'd like to see done.
Ryan, is there any specific approval that the trustees need to make in how to direct SDRA on the 10-year plan as it relates to AC? Or because the supplemental is a MUD decision, is it more of a MUD decision?
Well, maybe both.
Yeah.
If some of the expenditures to kind of get the process jump started would be through the River Authority, either their regular budget or reallocation of funds that they already have.
Yeah.
To kind of kickstart design and what have you, while the districts are figuring out how they're going to pay for capital costs. That will be a trustee decision. And then the MUDs would need to vote. If it's going to be a supplemental agreement for a bond issue, that piece would need to be approved by the MUD. So anything that's cash flowed or reallocated from existing funds would be a trustee decision.
SDRA's budget.
Correct.
That's the key differentiator is the trustees make decisions on SDRA's budget. You would make decisions on funding that you're specifically going to fund.
For bond issues.
Bonded.
Actually, I think there were two issues that were brought up. One is when to replace, and HDR made recommendations based on risk and the number of breaks that are not caused by contractors. So that's one issue, is to make a decision, do we dig up and replace this? And also they talked about the amount, you don't replace this much. As long as you're there with all that equipment, you replace this much. And then the second question is how to pay for it. And whether we put it in the tax rate or whether we put it in the water rates. And I think HDR made some pretty good recommendations on that.
Now, the AC pipe and the waste treatment plant are separate issues. They're gonna be funded separate.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not gonna be funded as one whole package.
No. And even the AC lines won't be funded in one package because it'll likely be in different tranches of bonds.
Like here?
Because it's going to be over
Because the time.
It's a 10-year period, yeah. So you wouldn't likely you would sell bonds at no less than a project, if not multiple projects.
Right, probably other tranches. But are you thinking one contract though, to oversee all the tranches?
But
I
that's
mean,
going to
that's-
depend on
Yeah,
how much,
Okay.
that's going to depend on.
What's never been discussed is whether we should start increasing water rates now to build up a cushion to cover some of these. Or we wait and fund at 100% debt when we have to dig the holes to replace it. I kind of like the idea, with interest rates being high, of building up reserves to cover some of it, because the interest that we're getting is greater than the rate of inflation. So we're actually making money.
I think the first step in that would be for the MUDs to give SJ guidance on the timeline. If not, just to say, we agree to go with HDR's recommendation. And that way SJ can put it as such in the 10-year plan. And the resultant of that will be to identify your point, which is, okay, when do we need what money? You know, and then you can decide, okay, well, we don't need, maybe we need some now to finish town center, but we won't need money for project X, Y, and Z for a year. Then there could be a decision to still start charging that to build something up. If you do that, I don't know that you're gonna get enough money to really make a dent in it. I mean, you would need many multiple years to build enough up to probably make a dent in it. So, I mean, it's a good idea. I'm just not sure that it will make much of a difference.
Could make the increase that's necessary for the debt service if it's paid through retail rates a little less dramatic if you increase it, the retail rates, 2, 3, whatever inflated percent each year, then you kind of build that up. So whenever you get to what you need for the portion to pay the debt service, it's not as big of an increase. So you have both, the public is more, prepared for, the ultimate rate, and you do have some funds that have been generated that would earn interest and maybe could reduce the amount of the ultimate debt that's needed to fund the infrastructure. So there could be some benefit.
Yeah, and Chris, is there a reserve requirement on those bonds? One certain how many months or a year's worth of reserve in advance? You might could cover that with cap I perhaps, but you also could cover it the way that Bob's talking about too. I would think at least some of it.
Rate increases are regulated, right? You can only raise it so much. No. Okay.
No, but I mean, the Woodland is obviously very conservative on increasing costs to customers. But if you had something that was, just making up numbers, inflation numbers, 2, 3 or so percent, even if wholesale stays the same and retail went up, then you could do that for, a few years. If the bonds aren't issued for say 5, well, you've had 5 years of 3% increases. So you've saved up a chunk, and that could also go against what you would need for the debt service piece for the bond issue. So it would be a more gradual impact on your customers and would provide you some funds to help buy down, quote unquote, the amount of debt that would be necessary. So there could be some benefit there.
Conroe pays their $24 million that they owe SJRA. That would, with interest, that would be a nice piece of starter fund.
That's just GRP's money. So GRP keeps it.
I'd maybe suggest maybe an agenda item next month at the board level to consider an act on the AC waterline projects as presented by HDR to give guidance to SJRA. That may at least get your philosophy down as far as what you want to do as MUD 1, as far as following or not following the recommendations by HDR.
Actually, I was going to suggest put item number 12 back on the agenda for next month. We should discuss that. One.
We have discussed it in
And or act. That's the differentiator that from my point. We can write it exactly that way.
Yeah.
But I think you want to add the act on.
Yes.
That was my point.
Yes. Is that all right?
Yeah, what he suggested, I moved.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
All right.
Get it right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything else to add on? All right, moving on to item 20. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Aye.
Really.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.